The most common acute cause of death for bodybuilders is kidney failure related to the use of diuretics. Bodybuilders often employ diuretics before a show as part of a peaking protocol to rid the body of water to bring a tight, dry look, and this can go awry and result in actual death. In a recent Chubbyemu video, Dr. Bernard reviews two cases where two different bodybuilders, one male and one female, used and abused diuretics before a competition. Thankfully, they didn't die, largely due to the medical services they received at the hospital. The video is fascinating. I'm not going to react to the whole thing. I just want to focus on this one particular clip. I'm going to play it for you now.
JD was a bodybuilder getting ready for a show. He had one coming up in just a few days. It was time for his peak, and unless he was going to have a heart attack, he simply couldn't risk doctors pumping him full of fluids and ruining his physique. In his mind, he would know. He was confident that he knew his body well. No one else could tell him otherwise. Going to the hospital would totally destroy everything that he had been working for the last 4 months.
If you hear a sentence like that, your reaction is probably, this guy is nuts. And you wouldn't be wrong. This kind of a sentiment is well outside the bounds of normal human behavior. Skipping potentially life-saving medical treatment just so you can do a bodybuilding competition? That's nuts. That's delusional. That's potentially suicidal. But in other contexts, this kind of an attitude, this mindset is celebrated. This single-minded, potentially self-destructive focus, we call this grit. This ability to block out externalities and focus on your goal, we call this determination. This is, in its purest form, the athlete's mindset, something that we all celebrate. We champion it. We champion those who embody it. We build brands on it. When David Goggins talks about performing ultramarathons with bleeding and broken feet, we celebrate it. When we hear tales of people scaling Mount Everest and defying the odds, we're in awe of what they've done. We admire their drive, their refusal to quit, even when it puts their own life in danger. This is the athlete's mindset. And in its own unique way, this is also the mindset of the bodybuilder. Well, you might say, but bodybuilding isn't even really a sport. It's not the same thing. And sure, that critique is fine, but it kind of misses the point. The athlete doesn't care about what kind of sport they're doing. They don't care whether they're on ESPN or the Olympics. It's about the goal. It's about reaching that point of triumph. And that can exist in any domain. The arena doesn't actually matter. It's about the athlete's mindset and their intended outcome. And in this sense, bodybuilding is as legitimate an athletic pursuit as anything else, like running, football, climbing, etc. But there's another layer to this that's more unique to bodybuilding, and it's perhaps a little disturbing. Bodybuilding is a refuge. It's a home for the broken. The name implies change. The name implies building. You're building your body up. And so it brings in people, it draws in people who want to change themselves, who are seeking control, who are seeking a way to alter the course of their life. And often these people might have addiction issues. They might be struggling with depression or anxiety. And bodybuilding offers them a way to fix themselves, to improve themselves. But here's the problem. That control, that focus, that drive that bodybuilding inspires and brings and hones, if your underlying issues persist, if your self-destructive tendencies and behaviors persist, you're just going to channel them and transmute them into bodybuilding. Bodybuilding just becomes another vehicle, another means for self-destruction, not self-actualization, expression. You've just replaced one habit with another. And for these individuals, PEDs or performance-enhancing drugs really complicate matters further. In popular culture, PEDs are a complicated topic. Athletes use them, actors in Hollywood use them. If we think about it, if we talk about it, we sort of accept their usage because we think it's related to their goals. They need to use these drugs because it's necessary for their sport. We don't think of it as drug abuse or addiction. We think of it as part of their job, a requirement for performing their duties. But in bodybuilding, that line is much blurrier. The truth is, bodybuilding doesn't really pay. Outside of a few select athletes, there's no shoe contracts, there's no athletic endorsements. You're not going to get rich from bodybuilding. And so those external material rewards just aren't as palpable. And so it makes less sense from an external perspective why someone would use drugs for the purpose of bodybuilding. What's the payoff? Why would it be worth jeopardizing your health for a plastic trophy? And moreover, many people who engage in bodybuilding don't actually compete. They never even set foot on a stage. So there's no chance that they'll ever even get that kind of external validation and reward from winning a competition. So then why are they taking drugs? Why are they potentially engaging in self-harm just to look pretty? In actual clinical mental health literature, an addiction is defined as a behavior that is destructive, that causes you harm. You can be addicted to something in the colloquial sense, and as long as it doesn't actually harm your life or those around you, it isn't necessarily an addiction. And so just because bodybuilders may be using drugs, just because their goals might not make sense to you, that does not necessarily mean that they're abusing drugs. That does not necessarily mean that they're addicted. And frankly, this notion that a material goal, like winning a trophy or making money, is somehow better than an intrinsic goal, I think is false on its surface. Yes, bodybuilding in some sense is external, right? You're changing the shape of your body, but you're probably doing it for yourself. You're doing it because you like the way it makes you feel. And that is no less valid than an athlete's desire to dominate on the field or on the stage. But that really brings us back to that deeper question of motivation. The question isn't, are you using drugs? The question isn't, is this bad or harmful? But the real question is, why are you doing this? Can you stop? And are you trying to hurt yourself? That's the real truth here. There are some people who engage in bodybuilding because they want to improve their body. They want to feel better about themselves. And there are some people who engage in bodybuilding because they're trying to commit suicide slowly, day by day. Bodybuilding in its purest form is about building up the body. It's about improving oneself. But it can also be twisted and used for destruction, to destroy yourself. And so you have to ask yourself again and again, am I doing this to build myself up or to break myself down? Thanks so much for watching. This is a heavy topic and I'm really just brushing the surface here. If you're struggling with addiction, anxiety, suicidal ideation, please seek professional help. Don't watch YouTube videos. But if you found this video useful, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate you.